G'day punters, welcome back to the Punters Academy. Good morning, John Walter. We managed to only get through Randwick in part on Saturday, but still there's probably not a lot to go through. I mean, it was a leaders' day and rails and run, and if you weren't there, then go home.
Yeah, maybe they should never have left home, but we'll work with what we have to work with.
Indeed. Okay, so the track obviously deteriorated throughout the day. It started off at 9.4 race one. It got sort of down to about a 10.1, and by the time the last race was run, race 6, it had completely fallen apart. I'd say that's in the 11s. I've still got a little bit more work to do on that. Look, what do you say? There's maybe a couple of performances on the day worth noting, and I suppose one of the ones that in my mind is most interesting is in actually the highway race 1.
Ready now.
Still a glow.
Set for the first on
solid tempo.
Back there, off and racing, no speed by.
It was my horse to follow.
Yeah.
It was my horse to follow prior. Yeah, Aaron Bullock to Amy McLucas. So not sure.
Oh,
about
Jalmari,
that.
Yeah. The horse in front, whether it was by good planning or who knows, 2100 back to 1500, leading on the fence, just had its absolute birthday. Just kept whacking, and nothing was going to run on except for maybe Jalmari if it had a better steer.
It's actually engaged or accepted at least. No jockey yet, but for Canamble on Wednesday. The winner.
Jalmari?
No, the winner. Socrates.
Oh, the winner. Oh, okay. Yeah. You would assume. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it could go around again. It's a sort of horse that probably could. It was like a month between runs here. I actually thought the horse last behind Jalmari was the runner I was most interested in going forward. It was first up from a spell, Stellar Glow. I don't really want to see this horse backing up in 2 weeks or something like that, but it does get to the middle of the track and sort of keep coming, whereas I don't know what poor old Amy was doing, but at least she goes back to the fence late.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the only clear path, wasn't it? You know, I don't think she knew where she was going, to be honest.
It was weird because like Stellar Glow's come from behind. It got under her neck, ended up down the outside, and it's ended up back on the inside. So, yeah, very, very. I don't know what to do with Jalmari. It's such a nightmare. I just thought the run of that horse just right down the outside, first up, with everything against it, apart from being on the fence in the run. It might be in for a good prep. But what the heck you do with the rest of the race? I have no idea.
It's a bit that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think Stellar Glow is probably best suited up in distance, and it likes the conditions. And Jalmari just needs the big track, and even up in distance through it, which is
maybe you're right
last time. No, look, yeah, going from Bullock to sort of like 10 pounds difference in my language between Amy McLucas and Aaron Bullock at the moment. So that's just just
a weird choice, right?
Incredibly significant. Yeah, weird choice.
It's not an easy
two ride either.
Yeah, like if you put a 3 kilo kid on the leader there, you'd say fair enough. It's just a horse that's going to work forward from wherever and just keep going. Whereas that horse needs steering. So very strange, but anyway.
Its two best performances were when Craig Williams and T. Berry rode it. So, you know, that gives you a bit of an idea. Okay, we can probably move straight on to race 2. Yeah, that was a solid tempo in race 1. Race 2 over 1,200 metres midway, solid tempo early, above average by the time they got to 600. And of course, this time, no bad luck for the winner, straight to the front. Well, intended to hold the lead. I don't know why Rachel restrained so much on either or, but anyway.
It was a weird one, wasn't it? Like, I don't like stepping into these sorts of odds, and for me to suggest backing a horse at sort of whatever it was, $1.90 is pretty scary for me. So after 200 metres, I was pretty nervous. I thought she was going to declare war for sure. So I was very happy to see her like physically restrain and drag the horse back a length and a half off the leader, and that was basically the end of the race, wasn't it? That just like really good setup, fastish horse. Obviously very unlucky last start, but just everything in its favour. on Saturday, the leader, and did a fair job. I don't think these conditions really suited anyone, but he was in the right place and had race fitness and everything you could ask for. So
didn't suit May Rose, so maybe a forgive there.
Yeah, found the rails in run, but I agree it's definitely not ideal to be back there anyway. And even those two horses down the outside, So Good, So Cool, and Black Duke, they're probably wanting dry surfaces, and whether they'll get them or not anytime soon. But they're forgivable runs.
Okay, let's move on to race 3, the 2,000 metre 78. Above average early. Well, certainly by the time we got to the 800 anyway. By the time the 600 came around, they'd slowed down a bit. Navajo Peak only just got the job done, bless its heart. King Frankel, couldn't quite understand the price for it early doors, but anyway, it sort of did a fair job, I suppose.
I was ready to give him the what do they give him, golf clubs or something for the ride of the week. Tyler Schiller to show enough initiative like he does here early to cross to the fence behind the leader. Absolutely rode it perfect. Finds the back of the horse that's going to take him everywhere, and then pops off. I nearly died.
Didn't quite get that, but anyway.
No, and I'm not saying it cost the race. No one will ever know that, but I think it definitely was to the horse's detriment, and sounds like it was in your favour as well. But racing very well, Navajo Peak, and I don't think anything else sat outside the leader and won. I think nearly every horse led on the fence or was on the fence, so it did something no one else did on the day. So it did something.
Pink Ivory Lane didn't handle the conditions, same as Power King. It didn't handle the conditions. What else?
The grey went okay. The grey goes okay. Izzy rails it run and does rail up, but I just don't think it's up to this class. And I wouldn't even back in distance onto a dry track. I think the horse is absolutely flying. What's it called? Baccio del Mist. It even sort of runs into the race here quite nicely and then just gets really tired late. I think it's a miler that's racing really well.
Yes. I'm not sure what to take away from this race, but anyway. There's not much to talk about, is there, on Saturday?
No, there isn't. That's fine. And lucky we've got 4,812 questions. Hang on, what have we got here? Someone asking about Sir Jardin. Roman Consul?
Yeah, Roman Consul.
He's a racer. I cannot believe I went berserk watching this race.
Yeah, solid tempo here. Ben Mallon rode with intent, didn't he? Just wanted to have that lead. And
I'm going to have a win. So you've got Best of Bordeaux that's 28 days between runs, back in distance, blinkers off, winkers on, right? Okay, so very well publicised. This horse needs to lead to do its best in the stable's opinion. You've got a horse in Willinga Beast who's come out with an amazing change of tactics to be ridden with cover. Back in distance, hard fit, blinkers on. Fence is worth who knows how much. You've seen the first 3 races. And you've got a horse like Sweet Ride inside you who's weak. So to me, I want to find the fence at all costs, and I want to make the leader, I want to make Best of Bordeaux work to get his position because he's coming off a setback. I'm not. I'm coming back in distance. I'm going to be strong. So,
with the blinkers on too.
Yeah, I want to make him work. So I'm going to jam the heck out of my horse to cross this horse. And if he wants to lead, he's going to have to work for it because this guy's going to be weaker than me no matter what. And this guy, and if I weaken him up, that now I'm in the strongest position and I'm going to find the fence. Instead, he sort of pokes up enough and never even has any sort of attempt. He actually restrains the horse to stay off the fence. It's one of the worst rides and decisions I've seen in a long time.
Well, we were both on it. We tipped it in.
Yeah, and that's not the reason why. I was completely wrong. But you hand a horse that's vulnerable all favours, and it's your main opposition in the betting market. Just makes no sense.
What do we say there? Celis didn't handle the conditions. It was obviously dragged back after a slow start, and
I think they looked after it. I think it's just a complete forgive for it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Someone's asked in here, they've got a live comment asking about Sir Jardin. I think it's in the same boat. You look at it just ducking and like he just never goes a yard. Look at him. He never travelled. Look at a horse like the
Didn't
Two Nose travelling. This horse never travels. Complete forgive. What do you do with the form, Paul? It's actually not like it looks okay, but it's not. What do you do with it? I don't know. When these horses show up and they cool more or something, what do you do with them? I don't know.
Anyway,
it's a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really. It's just
there's no answer. You say that the leaders had all favours, but there's no answer to whether he's gone well or not. You can't really knock him too heavily.
Oh, he's advantaged. I mean,
no doubt.
That's what you take away from it. Let's move on to a race 5, the Neverson, and over 1,200 metres, fast tempo here. And the promised success didn't handle the ground. Expat, lame and coughing. Despite the solid pace, I did think there was 2 good runs in a race, and obviously from back markers. And yes, they were helped by the conditions, but it just
they were helped by, but not helped by the prevailing conditions, were they?
Yeah. Hersey and Never Talk. I mean, Hersey dragged right back there from the wide gate. Never Talk was a horse to follow, I think I said last time, and it's going really well. And Hersey, I think, third up. Next start, perhaps it might get a win if it's suitably placed.
If it drew a gate in this race, Never Talk, I would have absolutely sold everything I had and put it on. I was sickingly, I don't know whether people backed it or not. It was a horrible thing beaten, really. But it was always likely, wasn't it, that it was going to end back there? And
that's right.
But it's absolutely flying, no doubt. And that was a much, much better effort from Heresy than we saw first up.
Yes.
Well, what will they do off these runs? I don't know. But both horses seem to be going well. And if I owned the winner, I'd retire it instantly.
That was its birthday.
Straight to stud. Straight to stud, brother. You've done your job. You've done your job.
That was its birthday.
Nothing much more like those horses are back in the field that forgives. Expat obviously helped the winner as well. It was supposed to be the competition for the speed, but I don't think it could have gone fast enough to go with the winner anyway, to be honest. Pretty good tactics, I think, to try and make them all chase. And obviously the conditions helped, and that was what, got them home. But at least they were smart enough to do that. They got a fast horse. That's all it's got. Speed, put as big a gap as we can in the right part of the track and make them chase us. And it got them a black type win.
Indeed, and of course, lucky last on Saturday, fast tempo, and then I suppose solid by the time the 600 came around, and terrible last 400. But by this stage, the track had, it was completely gone.
So the argument here was from the jockeys in the room. What happens if we're leading? We've got the favourite drawn 1 here. What happens if we lead, roll off the inside as we've been instructed to in the gentleman's agreement, and the favourite gets up underneath us and wins? What happens then? What happens to that in that situation? Obviously, they couldn't.
That was a bizarre sort of statement by the steward, I thought.
That's why the statement was released, the public statement, because the jockeys wouldn't go out unless the public were made aware that this decision was made, that they have to stay off the inside. And you can see the jockeys just had no idea where to go.
I almost thought that Tyler Shaw sort of nearly threw it away. I mean, he could have taken the inside run there. Turning behind.
And that's right. And how hard's it got to be as a jockey? You've watched 5 winners in a row, winning one spot, and you're being told not to go there. It's like bloody Winnie the Pooh being given a pot of honey and said, you can't open it, mate.
Yeah, look, there's no room for stewards telling jockeys.
Well, you got to move the rail, right? Or you've got to move the rail, or you've got to call it off. I don't see it's a safety thing more than anything, and that's simple as that.
But what transpired on Saturday is exactly what you would expect to transpire.
As in the way the rail was playing. Yeah, but they're saying from the 800 to the 400, it was dangerous, like slippery. It wasn't a straight. It's the 800 to the 400 where the problem was. So surely you either move the rail out or you call it off.
look, you watch here,
and that's the problem. Like they worry about perception and worry about all these things. How can you tell say 3 and 4 off the fence when the first 5 leaders have won on the fence?
Yeah.
And expect punters to cop it.
Your job is to give your horse
to go where the fastest spot is.
Yeah.
So the win has gone well. The second horse has gone like a rocket, maybe. I don't know.
Very slow last section by this stage.
But yeah, I just think the second horse at his second start in a race, coming off a maiden, has done an enormous job considering he sat wide the whole way. No one else did that. How bad was the track? Had it changed by that time? Who knows? The whole race is.
Burgundy didn't handle it. Hawaii 5-0 eased right out of it, coughing and just didn't handle it. Badge didn't handle it. Eased right out. It's
complete pineapple the race.
Yeah, one horse to follow. Well, three for me. I mean, a follow up on Jalmari if it gets a decent rider and stays on the big track. No, if it stays, we've only suggested it once.
Hersey
and Never Talk.
Never Talk, yeah. I think everyone will find Never Talk now. That's my problem. I think Saturday was its day. It just didn't get things to line up to it, like from a betting perspective. I got nothing to follow. I think that horse in the first race, this thing, whatever it was called, what was it called?
The one you mentioned, the
Stellar Glow's in for a good prep.
Stellar Glow, yeah. Yeah, it was a decent enough run for sure.
Question.
Okay. Questions, of course, the show is brought to you by TopSport and Punters. If you don't have an account, make sure you contact Tristan or one of the team. Get yourself sorted there. They will, of course, bet you the MBLs from the time that they go up, irrespective of which state it is. And I think they're still betting a decent bet late too in the market. If you want to get on for a bit more, I think you'll be able to be accommodated there, especially on the bigger races. Okay, questions this week. We've got a lot of them. First one's from Justin, and the question he has posed is for TopSport. With the recent decision to reduce turnover and remove products such as Bob, I've noticed $2 NFL lines and Saturday money back promos are still running. I assume that removing these promos would significantly reduce turnover. Is there a particular reason they're still running? Are they good products for TopSport in terms of tax and fees, etc.? So I did actually ask Tristan this question, and I'll just bring up his response. He said that they're still in the process of working out their strategy for all sports. US sports at this stage do not have product fees, albeit there is still POC, so we can afford to retain a bit of our aggression here, but it's all up for review. With the money back races, we did drop these back from 6 to 4, to 4, I should say, but it's a staple with most of our competitors, so it's hard to get rid of it completely. So I think that's a good explanation there for Tristan.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to remove an approximate amount. It's very hard to drop 60, exactly, isn't it, or 50 or 28 or whatever, and you've just got to be careful not to drop 80 instead of 60. So, like what he's saying, things that people expect to get, it's very hard to wipe them out without worrying that maybe it'll cause carnage to your active client list. So it's not easy.
Yes. Well, thanks, Justin. Anyway, so for that, Gorbo's asked a question, but then he's provided some clarity. We had 3 interesting runners going into yesterday. I wish I win. I'm Thunderstruck and Golden Mile. Sure, there were a few others, but what are some of the things that you guys look for in determining whether a horse will excel, stepping up to an unknown distance, or perhaps may struggle? For the sake of clarity, obviously 2 of those horses had been to the race distance prior, but nevertheless, in my opinion, there were reasonable queries around all 3 runners and whether or not they would get the trip or not with the setup that they had. John, I might go to you first here. What do you particularly zoom in on or hone in on in trying to make a determination?
I guess it's it's obviously always case by case, but you just interrogate them kind of the same way, don't you? So like, I'm thunderstruck. For argument's sake, you want to look at its setup. Is there a reason why should it have peaked last start? Should it be continuing to improve, like as it sort of steps up in distance, or is it, like, so what I'm saying is it's third up going from 16 to 18, or is it second up going 12 to 16 or something? Something, there's always trying to work out what stage of its preparation it's at and what improvement you can expect it to make. So say a horse like I'm Thunderstruck has been quite well set up all through its prep, making stepping stones. Last start probably exposed that it was a little bit more vulnerable going up in distance. And, going through its form, there was no reason, like previous form, there was no reason to expect it to improve too much. So it was definitely a distance query on Saturday. Golden Mile was a little bit different. It had won strongly at 1400. Then it was ridden against its pattern the following start at 1400, set outside leader on a fast tempo, which is always like one of the first things I was taught to be very, very lenient towards those sorts of horses. It's pretty hard to try and work out and give a number to how much harder it is to sit outside leader and work, especially in a strong tempo, than sitting back off a soft tempo with cover. So it to me wasn't as big a distance query, especially with the rider change that was put in. So that's another circumstance you've got to look in. Any positive changes in track conditions, riders, those sorts of things can also factor into the improvement. And usually that's the everyone can see if a horse is strong or weak pretty much at the end of a race. They can tell whether it was a slow or fast run race and whether they were entitled to be strong or not. It's the improvement from that run to the next, which is probably the hardest thing to forecast and takes time to sort of work out the way different stables operate and different things that can help or hurt horses. So I wish our win was completely different. A horse going into handicaps is much harder for me to. You've got to be. They're much more difficult to work out. Like sometimes a classy sort of horse down in the weights sneaking into a handicap that's on the up can overcome distance queries. The price, and it's always price dependent. I thought the price was very, very short, but I was still very wary of it. So it's a good question, but you just got to interrogate the form. I'm sure you're doing a similar fashion, but using different methods.
Look, I think that the two things that I use most are the sectional data in terms of some of the splits that I focus on, which help me determine or form an opinion on whether a horse can step up in distance or not, and some aspects of the breeding. So I look at both of those things. So when I do have a horse that I think that there could be an issue or it could be a query, or is a query because it is going to a new distance for the first time, I'll generally hone in on those types of factors to help me make a determination on what I think.
So the breeding's a bit of a tiebreaker.
The breeding, look, I look at maybe some different things on that.
Yeah,
I'm not a breeding buff by any stage. Like I have zero expertise in pedigrees, but what I'm saying is that there are aspects or statistical aspects to do with the breeding that help me formulate an opinion. And some of the sectional splits in particular that I focus on help me form an opinion. Of course, you need to take the context of the pace of the races in those particular events to determine whether or not that means what you think it means. But they're probably the two biggest things I think of. That's how I'd answer the question anyway.
Yeah, over a number of runners. Yeah, that's probably exactly.
So Danny Jackson's said in a tweet to me that somebody else posted saying that nice barrier trial by I Am Lethal. Where did Loy know that it was in a race? Well, there was nothing in the stewards report, amazingly. Yes, it was a pretty poorly judged ride, to be kind.
Was there a change of tactics?
I didn't hear anything.
No. I wasn't surprised the way he rode it, but it was very different to the start before. So if there should have been a change of tactics, if they have to put them in Queensland, I'm not sure.
Look, it doesn't matter what it is. It wasn't the best ride. was it?
Yeah, it was out of the race after 100 metres.
Anyway, moving right along here, Luke has asked a question here. Loves the fact that we actually still do free content, which of course we do. Do you think it's okay for someone to run a tipping site? So there's a couple of questions about this. Send out a tip for a horse and then post a video on social media saying how his bookie, termed used loosely, business has laid it for stacks and cheering it to get beat, giving a big fuck you to all those that backed it. Assuming his clients are either A, those that buy his tips, or B, PSEs from other bookies. Look, and the other question, I'll just get the other one out of the way too.
We talked about PSE. We're not really sure what it is, but I Googled it and it came up porn star experience. So that's what we're treating it as, porn star experiences from other online bookies.
And the second question from James on that, what are your thoughts on a bookmaker owning a tipping service who sells or tips a horse as their best bet, and then the bookmaker comes out saying it's their lay of the day? Is there a conflict of interest, or is it play on? Look, until you actually mentioned it, John, I didn't sort of see that video, but I did watch it this morning, and thinking about it a little bit more from my point of view, Dicko owns the business or has a stake in the business, being the mailbag, and as a result, and he also has a stake in Baggy Bet. So as a result, there's always going to be a risk of conflicts arising, and I don't have a problem with conflicts of interest. I have a belief that they should be managed appropriately, and what appropriately means is going to mean different things to different people. Now, from what I can understand, from what I've been told, is that he's taken the view that the fellow that tipped it, Jackson, runs his own service, as it were, through to mailbag, but Dicko has an interest in that, and that he's running a bookmaking business, and that's totally independent. And look, they are separate, but there is still a conflict there, and I think that perhaps it was poorly managed in this particular instance, posting that video. It would have been a better video to post had the horse won, because that way
I think we both agree on that.
It would have enforced the tip, and it would have, effectively.
Gives it well done. He goes, well done to Jackson. I was wrong.
Yeah, and also, gives the punters an opportunity to see a bookie hurting a little bit, which is not a bad thing.
Well, it makes far more sense than gloating.
It seems to make more sense. I mean, you wouldn't see Sportsbet doing something like that, or any of the others. Well, not say any of the others, but it's an unusual thing to do in this particular situation. As to, do I have a problem with it? I think in essence I don't. I just think it's how it's managed on a case-by-case basis. And look, we'll all do things from time to time that we manage well, and other times we don't. So, but yeah, I get it. It doesn't seem to be a good look in this particular case. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, like I just went back and watched. Well, I don't really look, but I went back and looked at his content for the week, and he was openly against his horse all week, Jack. So that's great. Yeah. I've got absolutely no problem with that. He took a line against a horse, and as we said before, it was open to interpretation whether that horse was going to run a mile. He came up with a narrative that he thought it was a good horse to bet against, and that's fine. It's good. Happy, more than happy. Where he's aware that I'm sure that he's aware of what horses his friend or whatever it is going to tip for his other company. Whether he probably discusses that they don't overlap, his lay of the week being selection, is probably a good idea for both businesses. I would almost go as to say, like, if he's having a strong opinion in a race, then that eliminates that race from being covered by his service, especially if it's conflicting views. I think that would be a good idea for them. Again, that's just my opinion. Where I think it just went all horribly wrong is the video and the ending where he's like grabbing himself or whatever he's doing and screaming. And I agree. It was just like the way Luke's put it, there's a big fuck you to all the people that are paying. So, I see that a lot of people are coming out saying a lot of other companies do it, like Sportsbet, provide information to their clients to help them or whatever you want to call it, but they're not charging the clients. It's not a business where they're charging the clients for paid information. These guys are charging the clients, then the clients are betting with them. You know, I think it was just a complete. If I was his business partner, I would have knocked him out for doing it, like flat out knocked him out. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, like it was poor taste, I think. But
Yep.
look, not the fact that he.
Well, you're putting the business at risk as well, aren't you? Really, you are, because there's no doubt that sort of thing is not going to be looked about as a good. The perception, the whole thing in racing, perception, such a strong word, and if that gets back to stewards, I'm sure they're going to look at it and say this is not good for the industry, which puts both businesses at risk for no reason.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, so Les has asked, not that she's done anything wrong, but for the Cox Plate, would you put a stronger rider on Zaki for a close finish?
In my opinion, I don't think she's absolutely done nothing wrong. They probably went a bit too slow, if anything, the other day, and I think the horse is not that sort of horse. It's probably, Animo out-sprinted it late, but doesn't seem to handle the tracks, Animo. It's going to be a fascinating Cox Plate regardless, but I would expect them to be more aggressive in the Cox Plate. I think it's hard fit now, Zaki. It's been getting fit. It's the horse that's probably still on the up, and I'd expect them to take the bull by the horns in the Cox Plate and take it straight to the front and ride the horse very differently, and then that will change the whole dynamic of the race. So I think she's done a fine job. The horse has probably been cuddled a bit because it hasn't been entirely fit, and I think Cox Plate Day, as much as I've been a Zaki knocker, I think it'll be a very strong player, and I think she'll ride the horse really well.
When Zaki won the Doomben Cup, that was a very fast run race, and Zaki sat up on the tempo that day and got the job done. I think it's a horse that can absorb pressure. I don't think that. I'm not saying I don't think. I'm absolutely convinced that the horse isn't or hasn't been the same since that prep. So that the two best performances, I think, were the Hollandale and the Doomben Cup. And whilst it's been a very consistent performer since then, it hasn't reached those peaks. It's now 8-year-old. It's had 37, 38 starts or something. You wouldn't expect the horse to be at its best, but it's still there, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about a margin of 0.38 of a length or so between the first three. I mean, I'm Thunderstruck. I didn't think would be some query at the 2,000 metres, but I mean, it's only been beaten quarter length.
Slow tempo probably helped those guys stay though.
Probably helped those. I mean, possibly. I'm now going to say that Alligator Blood just won't win the Cox Plate. There's no way. I mean, there's something.
What about it did pull a shoe coming out, and I think
it can be forgiven, but
what I'm saying is Alligator Blood doesn't lead next time. It takes a sit. Zaki leads. Alligator Blood behind it. Very different. I think those two horses going head to head in the Cox Plate would hurt both horses. And I think they've worked that out now. So I would expect one way or the other. I would expect Zaki to lead it behind it. And I'm not saying I'm not penning it. That's for sure. No one's penning. No one's penning.
We don't do pen jobs here, mate. It's
we don't do penning, but I'm saying depending on how it all falls in the Cox Plate, Alligator Blood's a better horse ridden with the sit, and I think Zaki's better ridden to not take the sit, and I think it's just another completely new beast.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, I suppose.
And Animo shouldn't be even, so I'm going to say that too. I don't think it goes Melbourne way at all.
Is that what it is? Even money in the?
Well, it's like $2.20. 100%. Like $2.20.
Wow. Anyway, James asked another question. He asked one before about the Dico thing, but he's asked why wasn't racing yesterday brought forward an hour or two with similar breaks, or B, changed your order of races? Did Racing New South Wales miss the trick, or just have bad luck with the rain that hit? Look, I think I saw something that Ronnie Duffy put up about that, and look, I agree. I mean, why didn't they rejig the program and have the better races first?
And just cast them to Wednesday. Like they've had to do it anyway. cast the highway and the midway and the Willy Wombat way or whatever they are to Wednesday. Like they wouldn't have cared. As long as you gave them enough notice not to have ended up on the planes and trains and whatever and on the way to the racetrack. I'm sure if they said on Thursday or Friday, we're going to have to move you to Wednesday, guys, whatever, and moving it forward, no problem, and half an hour between races to get the races through. I did see Richard Callender put up something where he said all these options were discussed behind closed doors, and the best decisions were made for the industry. Why are those decisions and conversations behind closed doors? Why are they not made publicly? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's just that's silly. Look, to say that's silly, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and then I saw him answer something about someone's talking prior to the last race. Someone posted something saying, obviously riders are not happy with the track. Let's just pray and hope they all get around safe, because they're basically, it's a dangerous thing to be sending them back out when they've made that statement. He came back after the following race saying jockeys have made, didn't make real complaints until that. They came in and said they're not happy to ride and the races were called off. Well, Ben Gestel and everyone came out prior to that race saying the jockeys weren't happy. They made a statement. It was all... Anyway, whatever.
Okay, moving right along here. Adam has posed here, with Animo being a Group 1 winner at age 2, 3 and 4. Having that continued success at the highest level is similar to So You Think, in my opinion. I think So You Think might have been a better horse. He's gone on to be a gun sire. Do you guys think that Animo can start a trend for these top-class colts to be racing beyond 3, continue to have sustained success, and bulk up our breeding ranks? The sales KPI suggests that side of the industry is flying, but on the racetrack, it's a different story. Look, I mean, the modern era is really, we've lost all the good colts, haven't we? And
well, we either lose them, we either lose the colts or the gilts.
We lose them. I mean, but
the Hong Kong or stud.
Yeah, exactly. So the days of racing in the 80s and 90s and before that, that's finished. I mean, we just got to accept that. It'd be good to see a lot of them go on, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be good. And let's face it, I mean, Winks, as great as she was, and we've seen so many of the female cohort, become champions, or, to use the term, they get the 2 kilos from the boys, which is unfair when they're at elite level, especially when they've got a proven record. That should be a reducing claim. We've talked about that before, based on how many Group 1s or whatever they win. There's different ways to do it, but that's why. I mean, without that 2 kilos, Winks would have been beaten in that period. Some of those, was it Warwick Stakes or one of those ones where, was it Red Excitement, or a couple of those races where
up the rise? Yep.
Yeah. And she just sort of fell in. Terrific horse, not taking anything away from her, but she races in an era, or did race in an era, where essentially there was the males were absent.
And it's not going to change anytime soon. Godolphin do a little bit, like they'll race them on a little bit more than most, because I don't mind their operation, the way they do it. Like they're happy to race the horses on while they're dominant, and they're still adding value to their stud career as well. So whereas the others are very commercial. As soon as there's any sign of weakness in the horse, or they think that they've got the value out of the horse, that horse is gone. And I think we're breeding to weak horses. We're breeding weaker horses every time. And unfortunately, again, like you probably could say, same as Winks, a good horse doesn't mean you're going to produce a good horse. A good stallion doesn't mean he's going to be a good stallion at stud. And I think we're just overbreeding massively overbreeding, and it's just weakening the breed year after year, and it's only going to get worse.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on here. We've got a few to get through yet. You Little Beauty has asked, which gear change do you both believe to be most effective? First up after gelding, blinkers on first time, bar plate synthetic hoof filler off first time.
Amy McLucas off first time. Gelding, I think, my problem is I want to interrogate everything. Gelding, if you've got signs of how that they've had previous behavioural issues, over racing, keenness, whatever it is. Depends how lightly raced they are. The lighter they are raced, the more the gelding means to me. But every time they're obviously a flashing light on them. You want to have a good look at them, but every horse is different. Blinkers on the same. Is at the stage in the preparation where, say, like Joe Pride uses them when they're ready. Some trainers put blinkers on horses at a stage in their prep where they've got nothing else to throw at the horse, so they throw blinkers on them. So I just think using them carte blanche or whatever is very dangerous. You want to know, why they're putting them on, or try and work that out. If it just looks like it's, a horse that's really struggling and they're just trying something, I don't think it works anywhere near as well as it does if you understand why they're going on and why that trainer's using them. And often trainers use certain patterns. Plates off is a bad one as well for me, because often the bar plates come off at the first run of the next preparation. Very, very rarely will a bar plates or synthetic hoof filler come off during a preparation, because it takes so long for those issues to heal. So, it's you're basically dealing with a new horse that next prep. So I don't really take it. It's a positive, but it's pretty irrelevant to what their form was at the end of that last preparation, I think.
I'm going to say that all of those gear changes and others, maybe synthetic hoof filler to a lesser extent, I think all gear changes have value, and it depends on a whole lot of factors: horse, trainer, stage of prep, all those things that you mentioned. I don't think there's a specific.
There would be things you could win at, wouldn't there? Like there'd be things you can, second up blinkers or something like that. You could probably win at, but if you spend more time interrogating, understanding why trainers going into when you're going to extract far more value from it.
I think everyone's got to do their own research.
If you got blinkers on, I think you'd improve length.
I probably would too.
They say wombats with blinkers. It's a big gear change.
It's a big gear change. Looks like we're getting a few questions here on the live stream. From TP wants to know our fancy in the Golden Eagle. Look, I couldn't give a rat's ass about the Golden Eagle.
When is it? It's like 5 weeks away or something, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, that Silver Eagle's this Saturday.
Oh, mate, they're all just.
We'll worry about that one later.
I'm not really into futures punting.
Yeah.
Look, thanks for asking the question by all means, but yeah, I'm not.
There's just too much up in the air, isn't there, at the moment? Bloody hell, it's just hard.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Caulfield Racing Tragic has asked, as the 2-year-olds haven't been rating through the roof, does King's Gambit go close to the #1 seed? Well, they've had 3 races, I think, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. Look, King's Gambit #1 of limited sample, Platinum Jubilee #2 at this point in time.
I have nothing further to add.
Righto. Jordan has asked, hi Paul, if it's possible, can we have a mild discussion on how the change in tax, he's talking about POC tax obviously, is currently affecting the odds available per horse in varying states? How should we handle this current situation when forming a ratings-based market? And he just mentioned, as a side note, he uses our software and how he sets his markets and the distribution and so forth. Thanks, Jordan, for the question. I won't go into the detail there of what you put there, but in terms of the current situation, John, are you with us still? He is?
This is your question. You answer this question. I'm drinking.
Jamming something down your mouth. Okay. Look, early markets still making mistakes. So the ones that Tabcorp put up obviously are still full of holes. They get knocked into shape very quickly. And the problem is that, that's not ideal from my point of view, because you're getting on the win, in a metro market, maybe 3,000 if you're lucky. So what? I mean, it'd be good if everyone could show restraint, but of course there's the FOMO, people don't want to miss out. So it's just going to happen. It would be better for others to be up, and it'd be better obviously for automation to be one of those things that I know Richie Irvine's working on to be brought in, because it's not fair that punters can't use it and bookmakers can.
I think if you put out like a poor signal and said, listen, no one touch race 4 at Warwick Farm until I'm on, I think everyone would stay away. I think they'd let you. I think they'd wait for you.
I don't think they would. Anyway, but look, there's no doubt that the overall percentages have been climbing since POC was introduced, and as it increases, the resultant markets increase at SP, but the mistakes are still there, and look, they get knocked into shape, and I don't think it's having a great overall difference effect on maybe some of the results that you might get. There is some effect in terms of liquidity and other issues, and yes, the overrounds are growing, and that's not good. But I think it just depends on how you operate and what type of punter you are. But yeah, do you have anything to add, John?
No, no, we've talked about, like, as in the early markets, they're still making huge mistakes. The problem is you can't make them pay for it. I think that's kind of exactly what you're saying. For someone like me who would love to send out information to people, when they make big mistakes early, one or two might get on, then the price would crash and it would probably go sub where I probably would like to even be with it, because they don't go, we've talked about as well, from 8 to 7 to 6. They go from 8 to 5 to 350. So the poor people you're trying to help and tell them to take $8, if they're not, fully savvy and they're just following the racehorse and number, there's every chance they'll chime into $3.50 and you've done them a disservice. So it's the market's so radically balanced at the moment. It's it's very difficult. It's nearly coming to a stage where I don't even want to look at them. I don't want to know what price they bet. I just want to look at the last 10 or 15 minutes when you can actually operate in the space, and that's it.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, what have we got here? These ball bags. There you go. What do you make of SPs of I Wish I Win and Zapateo? Hype, recency bias, last stake, race staking, madness. After the ball, but both seem ridiculously short. Be good to hear more talk on the psychological and decision-making part of gambling, as most form factors are now public knowledge. Look, most form factors are public knowledge in terms of what's available in the public data, but it's what's not available in the public data and how you use that I think makes a difference. And look, we're all going to have different opinions, and we're all going to find their own little circle of winners, but it's how you execute on a whole wide-ranging set of variables, I think, that makes the difference. I Wish I Win, I was a lot longer, laid it, great, good result, easy in hindsight. Zapateo was keen, so can understand it starting the price it did. John?
I thought it was a little bit tight, but still it made sense, because a lot of the, say, Godolphin horses, say Golden Mile and Palili had won early in the day. And I know when I was at Bet Easy, you might be coming to that last race, you want to stand the favourite, but for argument, someone has 5,000 on the double or the treble. Now you've got that horse standing for whatever it is, 100 grand or something, coming into that race regardless. So there's no reason to chase the price out, is what I'm saying. A lot of those bookies would have been standing that favourite for a lot regardless, and it would have been the same with I Wish I Win, I feel, by the same the stage of that day. So I think Zapateo's price would have blown out if the set of results had been different earlier in the day. You would have probably got 5 to 4 or something instead of 4 to 5. I think that's how I'd explain it. I Wish I Win, I was the same as you. I'm not really sure why people were happy to back it in as short as they did, coming off pretty average form. But yeah, as you said, both easy to say after the last. I agree with you. I thought Zapateo was far better placed in the last two when it put in a flat run, which is not easy to explain either at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, fun question for the show. In a match race between Animo and Nature Strip over 1,300 metres, what would your markets be? Well,
I would take, if it was only 2 of them in it, I'd take $1.20 Nature Strip.
Over 1,300 metres?
I just would outsprint Animo every day of the week, and Animo wouldn't be able to get near it to put pressure on it, and it would just win.
Agreed. Short odds Animo, short odds Nature Strip for sure. I mean, Animo.
I'm happy to take evens.
Anyway, it's all.
Question of the year. Question of the year.
All
No.
We've still got another one before that.
Where's that?
This one's from David. I'm interested in how you guys approach the following situation. A horse who rated consistently.
That's a question of the week, isn't it?
No, that's not the question of the week.
Where is
Dylan's. Well, here we are. We're giving it up.
Oh, here it is. No, yeah, okay. No, go to. Yeah, I've got you. David, go to David.
David, okay. Interested in how you guys approach the following situation. A horse who was rated consistently in the mid to high 80s before a spell resumes with a rating of 74 and 76 in 2 runs from a spell. There is no excuses in the steward's report or anywhere else for both failures. The 2 runs are also in the normal distance range and on a similar surface. Do you use the last start rating and add significant improvement, or do you use last prep's higher rating and come off ratings points back for the lack of recent form? I don't know, John, if you're going to be able to answer this because you're not really.
Well, I'll answer in my layman way, and then you can attack it. So
okay. Yeah, good.
I'm a bit like similar to the questions asked before. I'll never default to ratings because I kind of want to interrogate it more. But I will look back at those as a point of expected improvement or where it can race. So it all for me is around the circumstances of the first up run. Were there excuses, or did the horse just look like it was not racing as well as previously? Has it trialled this time in and was trialling as well as it did previously? Are there signs the horse is not racing at that level that it was last time? I really want to be harsh on trying to explain it rather than give it an automatic bonus. If there is anything to say that it could improve for reasons you can uncover, then I'm happy to sort of be really it can factor in a lot of improvement that maybe the market won't. But if it's not there, I definitely won't just give it to it for the sake of it.
David, my answer is there's so many variables: age, sex, number of starts. They're very important factors when trying to actually answer that question. So, for example, if I'll just give you one, if that was a mare, and she's well exposed and she's had plenty of runs and that's her level, and now she's suddenly returned in 2 runs below that level, then I'd be inclined to not give the improvement. Certainly wouldn't be going back to last prep. So that's just one example. A lightly raced horse, a 2-year-old resuming as a 3-year-old, not making any improvement, or at least not rating to what it could as a 2-year-old, and there's been lots of examples of those. Ones that jump out like Farnan and etc. That's a different story again. That's a different situation again. Number of starts is very relevant overall in terms of career starts. So there's lots of different ways. There's no absolute rules. I think you've just got to, have a bit more of a think about it.
It's hard to answer.
Well, I don't really want to answer it. Other than the way I have, but there's.
That's true. These are the sorts of things it's trial and error for a lot, and then you factor it in all the time. You got to recover it.
There are skills that you can learn, David, to get around this problem. There's no absolute right answer, but there are certainly good guides to follow in different scenarios, and you just got to learn what they are. Okay, question of the week from Dylan. And look, this is the question of the week. Would love to hear about the average day in your life on Saturday. No streams, no other random commitments. Are you doing anything early in the morning, exercise, heading to a cafe just to clear the head, etc.? How will you sit in the chair and start cracking in? Are you calling people during the day? Do you take breaks during the day? Are you watching all the races on Sky One or just sticking to Sky Thoroughbred Central? Will you log off post Sydney? Or do you tune into WA, etc.? Can go as in-depth as you like. Appreciate all the work you guys do each week for punters. Look, the reason why we both landed on this is the question of the week was it's a bit of a different one, and it does sort of create interest, I suppose, in terms of how we do things.
The concern
I'm keen to find out from you, John, what you do, because I've actually never asked you this.
I'm trying to work out how honest I should be. I actually didn't realise it was Saturdays only, but they're not much different. I don't sleep a lot, so I probably wake up 5:30. which is not too bad at the moment because it's 5:30, 6:30, right, in Sydney time. So you're only an hour from scratchings and things like that. Usually I'll do a bit of reviewy type things on most days. Saturday's probably a little bit less, more about setting up the day and having a good look through. As soon as 6:30 comes, or at the moment, which is scratchings, then it's on for young and old, and it's all about setting up the meeting with more information, trying to work out final track ratings, things like that. I do have some people that I contact in regards to those sorts of things. So waiting to get their final opinions on how the tracks have walked and things like that are important to me. And then it's all about setting up. Usually got a bit of a lull if I haven't. Saturdays are hard in Sydney because the way I'm trying to change things, just do too much typing and things with sheets and markets, trying to cut that down so you've got a bit more room to breathe. But throughout the day, I just set alarms for the races. I don't watch all the races like in between. Obviously taping the races so you can go back over them, and it's all about just trying to find the right answers on the meetings I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at other meetings unless there's a reason someone's brought to attention a horse in particular in another state or something. I might set an alarm for that race, but most of the day's about set the alarm for like 9 minutes before, watch the parade, try and pick up anything I can, and then pass that information on to everyone. So it's probably 5:30 in the morning. I go until 5:30 at night, I'd say minimum. So it's probably like 12 hours, and then have dinner, and then normally I'm that hypo that I normally go back down here from like 6:30 to 8:30 at night, and then try and switch off at 8:30. So it's about 14 hours I'm tipping. I'm on my feet on a Saturday.
Yeah, they're long days, Saturdays. Certainly the busiest day of the week for me in terms of the amount of betting action that I will turn over, which sort of makes sense, I suppose. Average day for me starts always the same way. I'm usually at work, sort of in the chair by about 5:30. Wake up early and surprisingly meditate, which is a bit different. Something I've been doing this year consistently, and I think that for whatever reason it works for me. And so I just do that, and doing the back form is my first port of call. So back form, by that I mean I go through the results and the times once I get verified times in, which come in each night, and rate the races essentially. Like I'm looking to rate what I call race quality for each race, and then all horses that are obviously then beaten in the race, including the winner, automatically get a rating, and they get adjusted for different things. So doing the back form is critical. It's not a set and forget process for me. It's dynamic, and look, I've heard different stories from different people. Some people say it's almost a set and forget process. Other people, which I tend to gravitate towards, believe that it's a dynamic process. So you rate the race initially. There are obviously some assumptions that are made. The computer guides me in that process and helps me do that. In fact, I'm not going to get into too much detail about that, but needless to say, that takes we're talking about 50 odd meetings a week throughout Australia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So that takes obviously many hours. Some days are better than others. Some days there's more to do just simply because of the way in which the times flow in. But that part of it's a 6 day a week process. And then once that's done, then I'm into the day in terms of looking at any potential bets that I've got and having a bit of a think about how I'm going to attack them. Doing the form for upcoming meetings. I run a set of automatic prices for all meetings, and from that look for potential lay opportunities as well. Then I go into detail on certain races and certain meetings. So I do put more effort and focus into, mainly Sydney, Melbourne meetings, but and obviously I don't put much emphasis on country, just because I don't have the time to do everything properly. So, obviously there's that side of it. I don't take that many breaks, admittedly. I should. I need to exercise more, and I need to, improve those areas of my game. But it's a long day. It's a 90-hour week, pretty much every week, and there's very little rest. Yeah, there's just no rest, and look, that's the price we pay to be in the game that we love. And look, it's problematical. Even when I go on a holiday, which I did, reasonably recently, I went overseas, and I still got to do all the back form. You can't afford to let that stuff get on top of you. You can't just go away for 2 weeks, not do it, and come back and catch up. You'll be chasing your tail for weeks. I just can't afford to do that. So you're still in work mode even when you're in holiday mode.
You're just trying to fit in with supplying time and effort and getting a bit of enjoyment out of life as well. It's not easy.
Yeah, and spending time with the family, and obviously going to the beach or whatever you're doing. So that's what I do, Dylan. I don't generally hang around for the WA stuff unless I think there's some betting opportunities. I'm pretty much cast by that stage. Crack open a good bottle of red for sure on those big long days at the end of the day. And as far as watching the races, I don't have a particular channel. It's it flicks between channels. So obviously going back over to races and watching them and forming an opinion or making in-run adjustments, on the fly adjustments, all of that sort of stuff you're doing during the day. Betting, talking to people. I talk to a number of people that I highly regard, that are leaders in the game, and we talk different things, from patterns to form to different opinions on horses. I don't want to market from somebody that's, they're really keen on something and they've got it 6-4 and it's 7-4, or they don't like it and they've got it $10 and it's $7. That's just that's for consumption. Those types of markets, if you're selling them and you're trying to get a balance between being very right or being very wrong. I'd rather hear. Like off air on the other day, Jason asked me about that particular horse in Melbourne, which I think he was at 14 to 1 or something like that. And I said, oh yeah, I don't like it. I got 125 to 1, or I'll say silly things all the time. I've got this 50 to 1 and it's 5 to 1. I'm not trying to suggest that my 50 to 1 is the right price or the 125.
You wouldn't be putting 50s up if you're a bookmaker. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm really just saying is that I want to be against this horse and find an opportunity elsewhere.
Which is the only way. If you follow the market, you're never going to. You're following 120 or something, aren't you? And if you're 10% either side, you're never going to have a bet.
There are market insights that can be gained, and there's relevance there. But at the end of the day, you've got to have an opinion and go with it. Anyway, we sort of got off the track there. But
and you're going to be wrong.
Thanks very much for that. Yeah, you're going to be wrong lots of times. Okay. Thanks, Punters.
And I do think people are interested. I don't know why they're interested in yourself and myself, but people are. So good stuff. 200. Indeed. He gets a lot. He's 200 in front already, and we're the ones putting in the 90 hours. And he gets to 200. It's not fair.
Plus 200 for Dylan. I'll get in touch with him and get that sorted. Thanks, Punters. We'll be back on Thursday. John, what you're heading off to Melbourne, I believe.
You'll be back in 8 minutes. No, I'm Friday. Friday going to Melbourne. It really makes a lot of sense. I'm so happy. Thank you, little birdie, that John McLeod's from Brisbane. I'm from the Gold Coast. Nick lives on the Gold Coast, and we're all going to Melbourne. Makes a lot of sense. Not really understanding why I'm going down to the Mexican Antarctic, but yeah, that's where I'm heading. But I'll be here Thursday, guaranteed.
Okay, guys, we'll do some rapid fire then. And of course, came off a great weekend and saw them like beach balls. So in the large, that was good. And certainly nice to bounce back after a bad week, the previous week for me anyway. Okay, so I'll be back shortly with Peter Lawrence, and we'll be doing a Melbourne quick review. Thanks, John, for your time. 10 races to cover. We went through it. It's more from a ratings point of view. Okay, we'll get that done. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.